And just kind of make a little disclaimer that these classes are being recorded just for the purpose of helping Coldwell Banker George Realty agents exclusively. Whatever we say here, it is my own personal opinion. Sometimes I'm very opinionated about the organized real estate, but that's the way we do it here at Coldwell Banker George Realty. We're a great group of people. We always like to learn, ask questions, and we will be welcoming people just like Virginia coming in. I will go straight to sharing my screen and share screen, and I will go to the zip form. And where is my zip forms? And I had a zip form. Let's tell you exactly how I go. I just picked up an internet address and I put www.zipformplus.com. That will take you directly to the portal that using your first name dot your last name and then using the password that you set up, it will get you to the Coldwell Banker, to what we call the broker version of Zipform Plus. You do have to be member of the Association of Realtors because they're the ones that run it. For any reason, if you are going to the California Association of Realtors website and then you go to transactions, you will not end up in the broker version of Coldwell Banker, of Zipform. You go to the normal version. They work exactly the same. The benefit of using ours is because we have the templates and we try to update them with the transaction coordinators to the best of our ability. If for any reason you find an old form or something that escaped us, just call it our attention. We are humans, we make mistakes, and we'll correct it as soon as possible. So when you go here, you land on your transactions, right? And then we're gonna create a brand new transaction. We put new. The new transaction is gonna be a new purchase. The new purchase is gonna be an address. I always make a believe address so I can put 1, 2, 3, 4 Main Street in Alhambra, California. There's usually one, right? Even East Main Street. So we'll get that property. It is a residential purchase. We do train only on residential purchase because that's the most used form. If you're gonna go and do residential income, remember there is one called residential income purchase agreement, and that is used for anything that is 2 units or more. 2 units to 200, 300, 500 units, the same form. It's called residential income purchase agreement. It's called RIPA. This is going to be an active transaction for me. I am the agent on the transaction. And here is the kicker. Everybody look into where it says my templates. They're not mine. They're Coldwell Banker George Realty templates. So if you click down here on the drop-down menu, you will find out that there are forms right there. There is an office template, and it says CBGR commercial lease application. Well, that's not what we're doing today. We're doing a residential purchase. So we start looking for residential income listing. No. Residential income purchase. No. Residential lease. No. Residential lease listing. Residential listing. No. I want a residential purchase. So once I do that, I apply this template to my transaction, right? And then I will save the transaction. The program goes out there and grabs all the forms that Coldwell Banker George Realty already have pre-selected on any residential purchase. It goes and apply the templates. Just so you know what we have to deal when we select templates, if you looked at here to the right corner of your screen, it says all forms. When you click on all forms, these are all the this is the California library, right? A California Association of Realtors. Then there is Finance Helpline Library, California Association of Realtors sample letters. There's all forms over here, right? So I like to have the entire library, right? You can select different libraries, but I like to select. And here is all the forms. So look at them. All of these ones are forms that the California Association of Realtors has to do real estate transactions. Once in a while, you should come over here and take a look at what they are and see what they say. The ones that are in blue is the ones that we have picked to go into our transactions, and there are all the forms right there. So let me just click on the form. And this is, as I explained before, like a menu. Like when you go to the restaurant, you have drinks, then you have entrées, then you have soups and salads, then you have desserts, then you have alcoholic, non-alcoholic beverages, and then you have to pick what you want to eat that day. Well, this one is the menu, and we're not going to be using all the forms. For example, there is one here that says notice of unforeseen coronavirus circumstances. This was a form that came in on the onset of COVID-19, and very seldom is used on transactions. There's another one here: septic inspection, wells inspections, property monument, and allocation of cost. This is a form that if you are in a rural area where they still have septic tanks, if you're in a hilly area where there's septic tanks, where the properties are not connected to the normal sewer system, you will have to use it. So then you have to eat that in the menu, but we're not going to use it right now. So I'm going to go straight to the California Residential Purchase Agreement. When I go there, there is a cluster of forms that are already checked into the form. I'm going to put full screen so everybody can read it. This one is the first form in the purchase agreement, the disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. There are two. One that is the seller's broker to the seller, and they do that at the time of taking the listing. This one is you representing the buyer. So this one is buyer's broker, which is us right now, to give to the buyer. It is required by civil code. Anything that says civil code in any of the form is by law. We have no choice. If you want to do business in the state of California, you have to follow the real estate law in the state of California. All those people that are in Sacramento doing laws, this is what they do all day long. Make our life miserable. I'm just kidding. All righty. So this is a agency disclosure. And he talks about the duties, seller's agent, the diligent exercise of reasonable skills, care in performance of the agent's duties. You have to be knowledgeable about real estate. You need to be honest. I mean, it is redundant to say that you have to be honest when you're dealing in this business, but it tells you that you have the duty to honest and fair dealing and in good faith. Good faith is very important. And then you says a duty to disclose all facts that are known to the agents, materially affecting the value or desirability of the property. If you know anything about this property that would affect the value, then you need to speak it up and let the buyers know that you're aware of that. When you are the buyer's agent, you have the duty, exactly the same duties. And then when you have duties and when you're representing both, you have the duty to utmost care, integrity, honesty, loyalty. I mean, it is without saying, you have to be honest, straightforward with people. Tell them the truth. The truth will set you free. Those are famous words, right? If you really wanted to know all the provisions of section 2079.13 to 2079.24 of the Civil Code, it is written on the back of the agency disclosure. And both pages, a copy of these both pages have to be given to the people that is signing over here. The buyer that signs right over here needs to get copies of this document, and they have to read the law. At a later time, we will be confirming our position, whether we're representing the seller or we're representing the buyer. And if we check the boxes that says that we represent both, we have to check the boxes. If you are the listing agent and you are the selling agent, you have to do this twice, unfortunately, but it has to get done. And you check that you're the listing agent and you represent both. You're the selling agent and you represent both, okay? The next document, by law, we need to tell the buyers that we follow the Fair Housing and Discrimination Advisory. This is a form that is given to them, explaining them that there are laws in the state of California, there are laws in the United States of America that protects all races, all colors, all sexes, all sexual orientation, marital status, familial status, citizenship, primary language, ancestry, gender, source of income, immigration, natural origin, gender identity, disability, mental or physical, military, religion, gender, medical condition, age, criminal history, and any arbitrary characteristic that you might want to discriminate against. It is forbidden by law. There's a big penalties. The Housing and Urban Development, HUD, has penalties of $10,000 and up to, I believe is, I don't know if it is 6 years, I mean 6 months to a year plus the penalty if you violate the equal housing rule. You know what I'm saying? There is a couple of UNRU Act. There is a whole bunch of civil rights acts. There's also the California Disabled Persons Act, and they have all of these are laws. And any local city or county, you might be doing business in a city that has a little more restrictive ordinances regarding discriminating something. So be careful. If you see the color green on the bills, that's all you need to look into it, okay? Nothing else. This form gets to be signed by the buyers, then you send it with your offer, and it needs to be signed by the seller, and you get it back and you put it into your file on SkySlope. The next one is the possibility. We let them know that, hey, we work for a big company, and I don't know if somebody in the Puente office, somebody in the Arcadia office may be representing a buyer that is competing with you, Mr. Buyer, or even I will be maybe working with 2 or 3 buyers, and they say, Cesar, we want to live in Alhambra and we want to buy a 3-bedroom 2-bath. So I'm showing 3 bedrooms 2-bath to to the Smith family, and I'm showing 3 bedrooms 2-bath to the Kwang family. So I am competing. There is more than one buyer out there. So you give this and you get the consent. Most people don't understand it, so they'll sign it. You sign it. It goes with the offer, and it comes back to you signed by the seller, and you need to put it in your SkySlope company broker's file. The other document that is attached to the form is called a wire fraud and electronic funds transfer advisory. Okay, so when we give in advisories, we're telling the people, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. It's kind of like grandma telling you, don't go out at night without your sweater. Those are advisories. And we have to follow them and give them to them, because otherwise a smart attorney, if for any reason we get to go to court, they're going to say, hey, are you a member of CAR? And your answer is going to be yes. Do you know that CAR puts out a zip form? And you're going to have to say yes. And if you were familiar with this form and you say, well, yes, and well, how come you did not use it and give it to my client? And that's when the jury and the judge is going to say, uh-oh, this agent is careless. He knew about the form, he didn't use it. Handcuff him and put him in the prison, right? So please, if there is a form to be used for something, use it. Okay, that's the best advice that I can give you, right? So this one is about wire fraud. Los Angeles County, California, because of the prices of home, you know, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Criminals don't go where the houses are $10,000. It's not worth it. They go where the houses are worth, you know, $1 million, and that's where they go and make the biggest profits, right? They don't go to a small bank. They go to a big bank that has a lot of money in it when they go and steal a bank. So this one is information that you have to give the consumer, the buyers, that they can go to the FBI if they've been victims of fraud, National White Collar Crime Center. There are websites over here that if they want to, they can go.
And check the email now.
Okay, so please mute yourself. So anyway, then we get to the form that everybody is expecting. I'm going to go, if you don't understand something, please write it down, and then I'll stop once I do it, and we will have questions and answer. They prepared, that is today. We are preparing this offer today. This is an offer from my favorite buyer, Betty. Buyer. Okay, Betty is gonna be buying a property at 1234 East Main Street in Alhambra, It is in the city of Alhambra. It is in Los Angeles County. So you type Los Angeles, right? If you were in Orange County, you will have to type Orange County. If you're in San Diego County, wherever you happen to be, California, and then you put the zip code 91801. It could be 91803, whatever happens the property to be in. Where do you get the address? Well, when you were creating your transaction, you can import the listing from the MLS and it will auto-populate this information. It will auto-populate the assessor's parcel number, right? This is a make-believe property. It usually comes with, 4 digits and then the book and the page. That's the assessor's parcel number. Other people look at this one as the tax ID. This is a unique number of every parcel. And then the purchase price of the property, we cannot type here. It helps all the people like me that English is their second language. I just type the number, $990,000, and it will type them for me. Yeah, I like this. Close of escrow, there are 2 choices on close of escrow, right? One of them here, it will bring you a calendar. And the calendar say we will close escrow by March 18. I don't want you to do this. Don't use a date, because when you use a date, you don't know if between the offer and the counter offer, you are going to be changing those dates. It might take 20, 30 days, 40 days to get a loan approval. And then all of a sudden, March 18 comes along and you're not ready. So you're putting the buyer at a disadvantage. What I like to do is I like to always check this second box, and it says so many days after the acceptance. So if between today and Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, we're back and forth sending offers and counter offers, the moment that the offer gets accepted or the last counter offer gets accepted, that will be day 0. After day 0, tomorrow will be day 1. And we have so many days to close escrow. I'm gonna give you a caveat. Check with the lender that the buyer is using. How many days do you need? Sometimes the buyer's money is in another country and they need to send a boat to go pick up the money. Sometimes the money is in a retirement account that you need to sell, get permission from the HR department at a big company. It might take 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to verify where the money's coming from, or cashing stocks, bonds, insurances, whatever. So, and you may have a difficult buyer that has many checkings accounts. They have many companies, 2, 3 corporations. Those are more difficult and it takes longer for a loan approval than somebody that works for the post office and the wife is a teacher, 1 W-2, 1 checking account, 1 savings account, 1 credit card, no problem. When you have buyers that have checking accounts, savings accounts, they have a cash business, it is harder. So I would like to put here 60 days. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I just want to trick the listing agent and see if he's at the board, and I'm going to put, 47 days after the acceptance. I want to close escrow. Maybe that's 48, a better lucky number. Who knows? I put anything just to see if the listing agent understands the contract and knows when he gets my contract he might counter offer. Yes, he might also counter offer the price. That's the reason why I know that they're asking $1.2 million for the house. I want to offer $990, right? I know they're going to give me a counter offer on the price. Well, might as well they can give me a counter offer on the days if they don't like it. Remember, this box is checked already. The disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship, it's already attached. Here, we're looking for the company that has this listing. And in this case, we say ABC Realty is the listing company, and the license number for ABC company. We put the number that comes in from the multiple listing service. And then here, the agent that is representing Susie, right? It's the agent, and she's also representing the seller, and we need to have a license. If for any reason you leave this empty, your contract is not valid. That's what the CAR hotline attorneys are telling me, right? So we'll put a license for that person. Coldwell Banker George Realty is the broker representing the buyer, and then Cesar Aviles is the agent representing the buyer. And then I gotta put my license over here, and now this is complete. Look at it on 2C. It talks about potentially competing buyers and sellers, right? There is a form. We already have filled it in at the beginning of this contract. It's already checked in and it's gonna go with the offer. Every form that has a checklist here goes together and is part of this contract. It is an attachment. As I explained you before, the purchase agreement is a tree, and all these other forms and advisories are branches. Sometimes we need to add branches to the tree. Sometimes we need to cut branches from the tree because that form is not necessary. Now, the initial deposit, a lot of people think that it has to be 3%. Not necessarily. So it has to be something of value. So if you were to put a deposit to be $1, that is a valid contract. There is something there. Now, on it, we usually use 3% because that is the maximum that the seller, that's the maximum that the seller can go after the buyer in the event that the buyer default, because on this contract, there is a liquidated damage clause that says that in the event that I don't fulfill my promises to you, Mr. Seller, you could keep the money. That is the honest promise of the buyer telling the seller, if I bail out of this transaction for no reason at all, you can keep that 3%, right? Fine. If you are writing a cash offer, I wanted to make my cash offer good. I will put half of the money, $900,000. Hey, I open escrow with $400,000 and I give you the other, 590 in 10 days, 15 days. If I see an offer written like that and I'm the listing agent, I know that they're real. Sometimes you'll see a cash offer and then over here, they only put like $10,000. I laugh at that and I say, well, if you have the cash, brother, put the money where your mouth is, right? So I always do that. In this case, we're gonna put $50,000, right? Knowing that 3% of 900 is 30, right? So in the event that the buyer default, only $30,000 is what the seller can fight for, and the other 20 give back to the buyer from escrow. So I'll leave that in there. I always changing just to see if the listing agent is paying attention. Now it says here, buyer will direct deposit, shall deliver within 3 business days by electronic funds. That means that they're gonna send electronic funds to the escrow. That's one way. Another way is by a cashier's check. This cashier's check, you don't take it. They will deliver. It says here, buyer direct deposit. They will take it. It doesn't talk about, Clint, or it doesn't talk about Peter taking it to escrow. It says they will direct, take a cashier's check to the escrow within 3 business days. Or it says they're gonna take a personal check. Nothing wrong with writing a personal check to the escrow at the beginning of escrow, because there'll be plenty of time for the check to be deposited and escrow will have the cash in their hand. Or other, it could be a money order, right? I don't know, it could be euros, right? In, I don't know, or in gold, I don't know, whatever you do, in Bitcoins, I don't know that yet. Okay, so this is gonna be a direct deposit, 50. Now, we do not check this box, never, okay? We do not ask the buyer to give the deposit. It says here, buyer has given the deposit by personal check to the agent submitting the offer. That's a no-no. I don't wanna see no Coldwell Banker George Realty agent clicking this box and taking a check. We, in the past, used to do that. There is a log, and if for any reason you're gonna take a check, that check is payable to us, payable to Coldwell Banker George Realty. right? Or it could be payable to an escrow company. And if they give it to you, you would have to log it in that you took the check. And when you give the check to the escrow company, you will have to log it out. Or if the offer doesn't go through and you got to get the check and return to the buyer, you have to also log it out the day that you give it back to the buyer. All right. Now, we do not do increased deposit either. B, this is in the event that I don't have all the money in my checking account. Let's say that I only have $10,000 in my checking account and the other 40,000 I need to sell stocks. And then I'm going to write up a check once the E-Tray or whatever it give me my cash and I send it back to the escrow. The problem when you do that is that you do have to fill out another form. Which is CAR form RID, okay, at the time of the increased deposit is delivered to escrow holder. So don't complicate your life. Don't be adding more forms that are not necessary to the transaction. The best way to do it is do 3A, put the amount of money and have the buyer deliver it electronically, cashier check, personal check, or other, directly to the escrow company, okay? If this was a cash offer, take a look at what happened to my screen. If I click on the cash offer, all of a sudden, all of the loans get disappear. That means I am not borrowing money. Now, this is not an all cash offer. Now I have loan. And the first loan is going to be a conventional loan. Now, if I am writing an FHA loan and I click here, or an FHA form will come up, which is SFA form, and will be part of my transaction, okay? If I am going for a VA, there will be a VA, the SFA form, and it will tell me that I'm going with a VA loan. Or if I check over here, I will be doing, see, it goes and gets me the form. It's called seller financing, right? And there is a form there. If I am assuming financing, if I am writing the loan and there is a assumption, I click over here and there is a new form called AFA that was just added to my file here. Maybe we'll take a look at it later on, right? But in this case, I am writing a conventional loan and I am going to be borrowing $500,000. Right? If you're going to be doing 20% down and 80% down, make sure that the math on the right column will work for you, okay? So I'm borrowing $500,000. I am going to be putting a percentage. This is to protect my buyers. So I talk to the lender and the lender tells me that I can get a 3%. So I'm gonna put not to exceed a 3% here, right? I usually will put not to exceed 3.125, you know, a quarter, an eighth, a percent higher than what the loan company is telling me, because sometimes it fluctuates unless you lock in the interest rate with the lender, right? If this was an adjustable rate, which I don't know that they're in the market these days, you could have checked that this is an adjustable loan, and you also put the rate at the beginning of the rate not to exceed a certain percentage. I don't know, maybe 0% today's day. And then it says, regardless of the type of loan, buyers shall pay points not to exceed. And I usually would like to put a 1% here, because that is the normal price of loans in today's environment of the loan amount. That means I put a cap. You as the buyer's agent are protecting that the interest rate. So if the interest rate tomorrow becomes 3.5 and the buyer says, I'm sorry, I cannot get a 3.125, I want to walk out of this transaction, the buyer has the right to walk out of this transaction, okay? So those are the things that a lot of times I see this left blank and it's not proper for you to write one that is blank. So we're gonna put 3.125. Just put about whatever the lender is quoting you, you can write it in there, okay? If this was an FHA or VA loan, buyer has 17 days after the acceptance to deliver to the seller the notice of the FBA. of any lender require repairs and costs. This is the reason why a lot of sellers in today's market, when the market is hot, do not like to take FHA, because there are some lender impose certain things to the seller, right? And it says seller to pay for otherwise correct. Seller has no obligation to pay or satisfy lender requirements unless agreed in writing. So there is a FHA and a VA, a mandatory clause, okay? And it makes it part of the agreement, okay? So make sure that when you are dealing on an FHA, that you do these forms, the FBA and the FVAC, okay? A mandatory clause. Additional financing terms, there isn't any. So we got the financing on this property taking care of it. 50,000 to open escrow. This 50,000 becomes part of this 440 as a down payment, and then the 500 is my loan, right? If I'm gonna get an $800,000 loan over here, right? If I borrow 800, then the 50,000 plus the 140 becomes my down payment. This becomes the loan. Then this is the total purchase price that I'm doing, right? It automatically does your financing if you fill this in the right place. Deposit, loan, and then this is the balance of the down payment, right? Will be deposited with the escrow instructions, right? Remember that there are buyer's cost. So this does not shows over here. So this is just the down payment and the loan. But remember, loan points, insurance, all kinds of fees are gonna be added to the escrow. So make sure that the buyer does have additional money than this 50 and this 140. It usually is about 1.5% to 2% of the loan amount. So if you're buying a house for $800,000 loan times 2, that's 16. So that will be about $16,000 that is going to be costing the buyer's loan fees. Okay. Now, the verification of the down payment, making sure that the seller knows that the person is, you can do here, right? I don't have a letter. I don't have my buyer's checking account that says that they have the $200,000 in the bank. Then I can say within 1 day, after you say yes to my offer, I will provide the source of my money, right? I'll take a picture of my mattress money. No. That doesn't count. I'll take a picture of my gold bars that I have underneath my bed. Nah, that doesn't count. You have to provide a bank that has your balance, that has your name, okay? Now, if you are already submitting it with the offer, then that will be the verification is attached. Or if you just want to do here within 3 days, after you receive my acceptance, I'll prove to you that I got the money, okay? Usually that's the way that Caesar likes to write an offer. I want the listing agent to say, hey, where's the verification of the money? Oh, I'll send it to you. I just don't want to be sending my buyer's bank account all over town. But that's just me. You can decide it on your own. Remember, you're an independent contractor. I'm just giving you suggestions, the way it worked for me in the past. There is also an appraisal contingency. We are going to be sending an appraisal, and if the appraisal says that the house is not worth the 900,000, I don't want to buy it, or the bank is not going to lend on the property. Now, in today's hot market, a lot of the counter offers are saying waive the appraisal contingency, meaning that if the appraisal come lower and the bank don't lend me the money, I would need to adjust the price with more down payment, more cash, okay? So I am gonna make it that this agreement is contingent upon a written appraisal of the property by a licensed appraiser at no less than the purchase price. And it says buyer shall, as specified in paragraph 14, later on, remove that appraisal contingency or cancel this agreement within 17 days. I don't know you, I just want to sometimes play with the listing agent, and I will put here maybe 25 days just to see that if he's reading the purchase contract, right? That's just Caesar. You leave it blank if you wish. It's up to you. I'll put 25 days. So I have 25 days to get an appraisal to the property and the appraisal report back to me, and I'll put 25 days just because I like to play with the listing company. Loan application, it says here that within 3 business days, I'm sorry, within 3 days after the acceptance, the buyer will deliver to the seller a letter from the lender indicating that I have applied for a loan and that I am pre-qualified for it. Now, imagine if I take this out, I don't have a pre-qualification letter. And I say within 3 business days or within 1 day, I will give you that letter that says that I am qualifying rate of the property, right? Or if I already pre-qualify my client, I will say the letter is attached to this offer. If you click that it's attached, it has to be attached. It becomes part of this purchase order, right? Now, there is a loan contingency. Buyer will act diligently and in good faith. This is very important, right? Don't say that you're going to put 40% down payment and then go around and apply for a 10% down loan. That is not acting in good faith. And if you're not acting in good faith, then the seller can cancel the agreement because you did not upfront set the truth. A lot of people will put 20%, 30% down, and they may not be planning on doing that. And that is a no-no. That is not disclosing the truth. And that is a violation to your duties, right? So make sure that you're acting in good faith, that if you put that it's a 20% loan, you're applying for a 20%, right? If for any reason the loan agent changes the loan, make sure that you send in a modification of this, an amendment, telling the seller that you're applying for a different type of loan. That's all you need to do, okay? The loan contingency will be removed by the buyer after the lender gives them the 2 thumbs up. You're gonna close. Now here, I can play and I can say 30 days, right? Within 30 days after the acceptance, buyer will remove the loan contingency. Of course, the listing agent want me to remove it tomorrow, right? They can say within 1 day, right? On the counter offer, you give me a removal of that contingency. Or, as most people do, you leave it blank, you don't change the date, and will be within 21 days after the acceptance. But because, remember, I put 25 days on the appraisal, I'm gonna put 25 days here for after the acceptance. Buyer will deliver a removal of loan contingency to the buyer. If for any reason I am dealing with an investor, or I am somebody that doesn't care, I love the house, I don't care if it's worth $1 and we want to write it for $1 million, I am not applying for a loan. I am going to, if I don't get a loan, I'll borrow money from my parents, then I will put no loan contingency, right? And saying obtaining any loan specified above is not a contingency of this agreement. If the buyer does not obtain the loan, as a result, does not purchase the property, the seller may be entitled to the buyer's deposit or other legal remedies. So if I remove the loan contingency from the get-go and I don't get a loan, the deposit would be in the hands of the seller. All righty? For my practice over here, I like to have a loan contingency, right? So it says here, look at it, buyer stated financing. The seller is relying on the buyer's representation of the type of financing specified, including but not limited to, as applicable, cash, amounts of down payment, contingent or non-contingent loans. Seller has agreed to a specific closing date, purchase price, and to sell to the buyer in reliance on the buyer's covenant concerning financing. Buyer shall pursue the financing specified in this agreement. Seller has no obligation to cooperate with the buyer's effort to obtain any financing other than the specified in this agreement, and the availability of any such alternative financing does not exclude the buyer from the obligation to purchase the property and close escrow as specified in this agreement. Sometimes buyers will go to a hard money lender and say, well, the hard money lender wants to see the house inside and do an inspection. The seller doesn't have to cooperate and make the house available to you. So tough luck. your original, say you're going for 20% down and you already did have your appraisal with your bank. So then that's the way to do it. Seller cannot, it will not cooperate with you if it doesn't have those. In the event that you're selling a condo to buy this dream house, right? So you make your transaction subject to buyers selling, right? And you put here, this agreement and the buyer's ability to obtain financing are contingent upon the sale of buyer's property owned by the buyer as specified in the attached COP form. So if you click over here, there's gonna be a COP form coming into the transaction, right? And it's contingency of purchase, right? Now, the contract on this page has a lot of addendums, right? If this is gonna be a backup offer, if you're writing a backup offer on a property that is already sold, pending, or active under contract, you do need to check this up and there will be a backup offer form. Don't believe anybody that tells you, oh, the property sold, but I will keep your offer as a backup. That is meaningless. You need to have a signed backup offer for your offer to be a backup. Otherwise, it's just talk, okay? And talk is cheap in our business. There could be a accept well and property monument form, then you click the form. Short sale addendum. If this is a short sale is when the loan that the property has is bigger than the equity, and they're a lender accepting less than the balance to satisfy their debt. Addendums, if you're applying any addendums at this time, you can click on the addendum and you put addendum number 1, 2, or 3, or 4, whatever addendum you're using. If you are needing court confirmation to make the sale, then you would have a court confirmation addendum and you're gonna click over here and there is such a document called court confirmation addendum, right? There's also another form, you can put here ABC form and you attach it to the purchase agreement. Buyers and sellers advisories, right? So there is a buyer's inspection advisory that is already checked for us. So it's part of the purchase agreement. If this was a probate, if you're buying a probate, they will have a probate form, a probate advisory. This is more branches to your tree. If this is a trust purchase, you can click on the trust advisory and it advises the buyer that this is a trust sale, that there is a trustee selling a property. If always attach this form, the statewide buyers and sellers advisory. I like to attach this form because it explains the buyer everything about a property. And I usually give it to them and I tell them, read the form. If you have any questions, call me tonight. And sometimes the buyer finds something about the property. Oh, I should check for this, or I should check for that. So you attach that form. If this is an REO, real estate owned by a bank, then I will click the REO advisory, okay? Other terms. Over here, any other terms of the transaction. You can say we must close escrow on a Friday the 13th, okay? I'm a witch and I need to close on the Friday the 13th. I don't know, whatever other things you want to agree. As long as the buyer and the sellers agree to it, it's part of the contract. It has to be a legal agreement, okay? You cannot say something about, I need to kill my grandma so she can give me the inheritance for the down payment. No, don't kill anybody. Don't kill grandma for the down payment. All right, I like those laughs. Then here, it's allocation of cost. Who pays what, okay? Can someone after the class send me an email requesting that form? I do have a form that has a who pays what, and it has a nice explanation. So send me an email so I remember to send it tonight to all of you. Here, everything that is negotiable, whether the buyer is gonna pay or the seller is gonna pay, right? So here we're asking the seller. We're writing an offer for the buyer, so we want the seller to pay as much expenses as possible. We're giving him $990,000 for your ugly house, so we want seller to pay for the natural hazard disclosure zone report, including tax environmental, right? Including tax, environmental, other in case you wanted to put other stuff that you would like to do, right? Prepare by First American NHD, right? I use First American NHD because it is probably a very good company. They bought a company called JPC or JCP a while back, and they have very good what are these people that I forget the stuff, but they are very good geologists. Okay, see, they bought a company that was created by geologists in the state of California. So they're very careful about making sure that all the zones, all the earthquakes, all the seismic stuff, it's in here. So I like First American NHD. You're welcome to do whichever NHD you want. I don't care. But make sure that you use a reputable company. The next one is I want the seller, right, to pay for a following report. I would say pest, report. Or you can call it wood destroying, right? Wood destroying. Pest control. This one is what we vulgarly call termite report, right? This one, we're only asking the seller to pay for the report. The right way to write the offers is you're asking the seller to pay for the report. Once you receive the report of the termite, once you receive the report of your inspector, then you make a request for repairs and you combine them and you ask the seller. So we're asking the seller to pay for a pest, right, report. And then prepare by, we can choose the company, right? And I like Castle and Home. You can pick any company you wish, right? I want Castle and Home. I've done business with them for a long time. And then I want the buyer is gonna be paying for a home inspection report. Right, home inspection report. Keep the noise, mute yourself if you're gonna talk. Thank you. Okay, I have to do that, sorry. Back to sharing my screen. Okay, so seller will pay for the home inspection report prepared by, and you can put the company that you're gonna use, inspector. Okay, you can find them in the Coldwell Banker Georgia Realty website. There is a list of resources and you can pick any company you want, right? Government required retrofitting. Some cities, some counties require that you do retrofitting, that you fix the property before you sell it, right? So like, for example, in the city of Santa Barbara, they want you to change the faucets, the toilets, all they put an anti-siphon hose bib on the outside on the yard hose line. So there are some cities that require that. There is the state of California that require that every house in the state of California have a smoke detector. So right here it says seller shall pay for smoke alarm and carbon monoxide device installation and a water heater bracing if it's required by law. Hello, it's required by law. So we're asking the seller to do it prior to the close of escrow. And then it says here, the seller shall provide the buyer a written statement of compliance in accordance with the state and local law, unless the seller is exempt. If the seller is dead on a probate, the seller is exempt. If it is a trust where the seller passed away and the successor trustee is selling, this is exempt, right? So if I am the trustee of my own trust, I created my trust. In the event that I die, I give the property to my kid, but I'm alive. I'm selling my property. I am not exempt because I created a trust, but I am still alive and I know about these things in my own personal house. So that's the rule. If you're alive and you created the trust, it is not a trust sale. It is a normal sale, even though it is the property in your trust. Okay, so we want the seller to pay for any, and he says any, if there isn't any, so what? The seller doesn't pay anything. Any other minimum mandatory government inspections and reports that is required as a condition of closing escrow under any law. If you are selling in the city of Azusa, San Marino, Pasadena, there are mandatory government inspections, right? So we ask the seller to do that. If you leave it blank, you forget this, tough luck, because then you're going to be the one paying, right? So don't make the mistake of leaving it blank. Then here, there is other one. It says, seller shall pay for the cost of compliance with mandatory government retrofitting standards. In the city of Los Angeles, for example, you need to install a earthquake shut-off valve in your heater, on your gas meter. So that will be a retrofitting. In the city of Los Angeles, if you live up against the hills, fire area, you will have to make sure that you pay and make sure that you get your clearance from the fire department. So that would be a mandatory minimum government retrofitting standards. So you want the seller to pay for that. The seller can change back and give you a counter offer on all of these items. Now the escrow fee, and people get confused about escrow fees. Escrow charges escrow fee. They also pass along other fees that they incur while talking to the lender, while termite expenses, home warranty expenses, all of those expenses are not escrow fees. So here on the escrow fee, we like to check both boxes. That's the proper way here in Southern California and Los Angeles area, that each party pay their own fees, okay? Sometimes the buyer has a cosigner and they need to notarize an extra signature. If they're gonna be sending a mobile notary, that's another $250 or $150 or whatever the escrow wants to charge. Well, that will be the buyer paying, not the seller. Now, if the seller has gotten a divorce and they have a grand deed or a interspousal grand deed that needs to be signed before they give clear title, those expenses are going to be paid by the seller, right? So we do that way. Now here it says, the parties shall within 5 days after the receipt sign and return to escrow all the escrow general provisions. That's what we call escrow instructions, within 5 days. So your obligation, you open escrow today, right? Today is Friday. Next Friday, you must pick up a phone, call your favorite escrow officer and say, hi, I'm the agent representing the buyer. I already send you my buyer's escrow instructions signed to you. Has the seller signed his escrow instruction? Has the seller signed his grand deed? I want to make sure that the seller side is doing what they were supposed to do based on my contract. And if they haven't, I wanted to document it that they haven't done what they were supposed to. And you're going to send them a notice to seller to perform sometimes. Okay? So be very careful about this. Make sure that you call escrow once a week, and checking on the status of your escrow. Get an update in writing sometimes from your escrow, okay? The next one is we're asking the seller to pay for an owner's title policy, right? So the seller pay for the title, but if the buyer has a lender, the buyer will pay the lender's portion. There's the one policy has the seller's portion that protects the buyer, and then it has a lender protection. Sometimes the lender requires endorsements of that title policy, and then the buyer will pay for that, okay? So, and here you can pick any company that you wish. You can pick First American, you can pick, WFG, Yolanda. If you want to do a specific rep, right? If you put First American and you put First American and you put Angie because you want to give it to Angie, make sure that you put the name of your sales rep so that way that sales rep gets the credit. Believe me, they don't make that much money for a title order. They do make their salary plus a little bonus when they're requesting something there, right? So make sure that you put that you want, any reliable title company. I don't do that. I always pick the company that I want. And I want First American because it's one of the richest. In the event that my client has any problems, they got the best real estate attorneys in California or regarding real estate. So I would like to get First American title because usually a lot of the small companies they insure through First American anyway. Other costs, seller shall pay for the county tax. Seller shall pay for city tax. And I put here, if any, right? Just in the event that there is any. If there isn't any, and if I know for sure, I will not do that. I don't look like an idiot. I know that in the city of Alhambra, there's no city tax. Therefore, since I'm making an offer in the city of Alhambra, I will not put that. I want, if this is a condominium, I want the seller to pay for the homeowner's transfer fee, right? If it's not a condominium, I don't check it. Now here on number 4, it says the seller shall pay. There's no choice whether the buyer will pay. So, but the seller will pay the HOA fees for preparing the documents that are required by law. Look at it, by Civil Code 4525, there are certain documents that the homeowners association has to prepare to transfer them to the buyer. And in this case, the seller pays them. Seller pays them by law. We cannot change it right there. It's the law in Sacramento. Now here, seller will pay for homeowners fees just preparing documents. Sometimes there's a lot of documentation and some homeowners association will charge you photocopying fee, emailing fee, just to give you a whole book of all the rules and regulations and CC&Rs and all that other stuff, right? So here we would like the seller to pay for that. If there is any private fees, right here, wine country, Northern California, those crazy Northern California people, they like to tax themselves. They put themselves transfer fees. You know, those, you know, Googles and Facebook people out up north, they love to pay taxes. They're rich anyway. So they will have private transfer taxes in some area. If you're aware of it, make sure that you put that the seller will pay. If you're not of it, just click the box anyway. And then he said, if there isn't any, if no private taxes, nobody pays nothing, right? Now here, you can ask the seller to pay for, you know, COVID-19 disinfecting the house. Okay, by professional, right? So you can do that. Nothing wrong with asking the seller to do that, right? If I were you, I would do it. Or if you said, no, don't worry about it. We'll spray, you know, Clorox and bleach all the house when we become the owners. No problem. Or you can say, seller will pay for painting and new carpet, right? You can put that on the offer. Whatever, I don't know how to type. Or you can say, seller to shampoo the carpets or clean the house, professionally clean the house. This is the place to put it. Now on the next one, on number 10, seller will pay for the cost not to exceed whatever, $650. Check with your home warranty company. What is the amount, $650, $750 for a standard? No, I don't like the standard. I always like the buyer to get the upgraded policy. I want it to be a 1-year home warranty issued by First American Home Warranty. If the property has air conditioning, I want the air conditioning to be covered. If the property has swimming pool, I want the swimming pool to be covered. And always, always, when I am the buyer, I want First American to protect the roof, okay? Even though it is not roof and appliances, right? I want the appliances and the roof to be covered, right? If there is appliances in the property, I want the whole enchilada. At least that's what I'm asking. If they want to give me a counter offer and they say, no, 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 we're only going to pay $450 for the basic, then I can tell my buyer, hey, they're paying for the basics. You pay the additional money for the everything extra, okay? That's up to, that's the way Caesar will write the offer. In the event that this is a investor buying a property as is, they're going to do some repairs and they don't want the home warranty, then they'll say here, buyer waives the purchase of a home warranty. Nothing in this paragraph precludes the buyer purchasing a home warranty during the term of the listing agreement, right? Of this agreement. So if it is an investor, I check the box. If it's not, I put the whole amount here, right? I want the 750 money, whatever it is. I want the seller to pay that amount of money. By the way, I'm paying 990 for this house. Now here it goes 8. What's included and what's not included on the property, okay? And so you know from your real estate days that, you know, the chandelier and the fire place equipment, make sure that you write it down. Now they're giving you choices, right? All stoves, all refrigerators, right? All washer and dryers, right? You could always put, and the following items, and the microwave, right? Microwave oven, and the air fryer, and the flat screen TV, and the sound system with all the speakers that are attached to the backyard and the front yard, and all the antennas, and whatever you guys want to, you see in the house. If the buyer wants something that you're doubting if it's included or not included, make sure that you write it in here. Otherwise, when you move into the house, you're going to find out that the seller took all the speakers, all the, you know, the Alexas, the uh, you know, the rings and all of those smart equipment that they put in their home. They're going to say, oh no, I bought them and they're not included. And you go, whoa, the reason why we buy your house is because your house had all of these things. So avoid problems. Make sure that you put them in there, okay? Make sure that if they're lease, right? I have ADT and I haven't paid for the equipment. That's an equipment that belongs to the alarm company. It does not belong to you. So make sure that you clarify those items, okay? Over here, number 6, it says seller, represent that all the items included in the purchase price, unless otherwise specified, are owned by the seller and shall be transfer free and clear of any liens and encumbrances, except the items and systems identified pursuant to AB5 and are transferred without warranty, regardless of value, right? No warranty. I give you my old ring that I bought 20 years ago when they came out on the market. It's old, it's gonna break one day. That's up to you, right? Now it says items that are excluded from the sale, right? So you have screen TVs in every room, and they're the latest with the, you know, most, and you say, I'm not selling that. It cost me $4,000 for that one and $20,000 for my sound system. I'm taking it with me. Fine, take it with you. You make sure that you write it in here or that it is part of the counter offer from the seller, okay? If you have brackets attached to the walls, floors, or ceilings for any component, furniture, or items will remain in the property, or you want the seller, if they're gonna take their stuff, make sure that they will remove them and patch the holes and patch any damage. They're not just gonna junk them out of the property, okay? Make sure that they, but it says, but not painted. If you wanted to have it painted, put another agreement over here. It says seller shall paint all the holes and all the places, right? Closing and possession. This is so important. When does the buyer get the key of the house? When they become owners. The buyer, right, intend to occupy the property as their own home. That's the statement that you're saying on B. If the house is occupied by the seller, or if the property is vacant, give me the key. It says there, possession shall be delivered to the buyer at 6 p.m. on the day of close of escrow. That's what it's saying. If you want to change that, you can put, or you can put here 3 a.m., right, in the early morning, right? When you were going to do a duel at 3 a.m., you want the house to be yours, and you put it there, 3 a.m. on the day of close of escrow. You can change that, okay? If you don't change it, it will stay at 6 p.m. Or you can say on double I, no later than 1, 2, 3, 5, any days you want. The seller will stay on that house. I give him 3 days to get out of the house and get all the stinky personal property out of the house and clean the yard. I'm giving you 3 days after the close of escrow, okay? In the old days, this was pretty easy, no problem. They were not litigious. People wouldn't be suing people. Today, society. It's crazy. They want to fight with everybody. People don't see eye to eye on anything. Half of the world divided with the other half of the world. One people want white, the other people want red. One people want gray, the other one wants anything else. So they are want to get the house on the day of close of escrow. And if you're going to take one day, you better pay me. If you delay the escrow because the loan is being delayed, you pay me per diem. And the people are fighting with each other on anything, right? So make sure that this is addressed. Some of the time you're going to see on the listing that the listing agent says possession 3+, right? Or +3, meaning 3 days after the close of escrow. At least that's what they're asking. If that says on the listing agreement and you put here that you deliver the house on close of escrow, this agreement will stay and stand, not the listing advertising, okay? So make sure that you do that. I always like to give the seller, and this is part of getting your offer across. You need to negotiate, and this is part of the, hey, I let you live. How many days you need? You need 5? Sure, give me the house, right? I'll let you live for 5 days free, as long as you accept my offer. See, you gotta use a little bit of sugar when you're, making negotiation. You don't wanna be so strict, right? But I leave it up to you. I always like what we used to do in the old days. It was nice 3 days, go cash your check, go rent your U-Haul, move out of the house, and I'll enjoy it after, and I'll sweep the house later. I'll buy my own pizza the day that I moved in. If the seller is gonna stay on the property, okay, more than 30 days, you do need to sign up an agreement. If you are going to do it less than 30 days, you have another agreement called seller in possession, SIP. But if the seller wants to stay there for 2 months, then you better do a rental agreement, okay? And they are being advised to consult with the bank and their insurance agent and their accountant and all that other stuff. If you are unable to deliver the property vacant in accordance with rent control and other applicable law, you may be in a breach of this agreement. Guys, if you are the listing agent and the buyer wants the house to be vacant, if it has a tenant there, and you may be into trouble because right now the law says that you cannot evict somebody, okay? There are eviction moratoriums because of COVID. The courts are closed because of COVID. So you need to make sure that you get a real estate eviction landlord tenant specialist attorney to deal with these things, because there's several laws that are confusing. There's a federal law, there is a state law, there's a city law regarding all this COVID that nobody knows what the hell is going on. So make sure that you tell those people to talk to a eviction attorney. If the tenant is going to stay there, I'm buying it for investment, you click here and there will be a form called tenant in possession, TIP, right? If we have time, we'll go take a look at all those forms. Now, paragraph 10, it talks about all of the laws that the seller has. The seller has to give the buyer an FLD regarding lead. This is a federal law. Cannot change it. Otherwise, you have to go to Congress and change it. You also have to give a transfer disclosure statement. By law, the taxes are going to change. If the property is Melrose Community Act, you need to give to the buyer. There is a form that you need to give to the buyer. It's called SPQ or ESD, Seller's Property Questionnaire, or you're giving an exempt. If you're exempt like a probate, if you're exempt like a trust, then you have to give the ESD, right, form. Now, any statutory disclosure required by this paragraph is considered fully completed if the seller has answered all the questions and completed and signed the seller's sections and the seller's agent, if any, has completed all the sign the seller's broker firm, or if applicable, the agent visual inspection disclosure. So you have to do a CAR form AVID. It is a requirement in Coldwell Banker, George Realty, that buyer's agent and listing agents use an AVID form in conjunction with the transfer disclosure statement. We don't care if the other party doesn't do it. We care if Coldwell Banker, George Realty do it. If we do it, All 4 signatures should be there. The listing company, the seller, the buyer's company, which is you, and then your buyer, 4 signatures. If there is one house, 1 TDS, 1 AVID. If there's a duplex, 2. If a triplex, 3. If it is a fourplex, 4. 5 units, no need. That's easy, right? Then you get a note that says waiver of the statutory and lead disclosure is prohibited by law. Some of this stuff are prohibited. You cannot waive it. Oh, the buyer waives everything. No, you can't. The seller has an obligation by law to do it. Okay. If they don't want to sign it, that's a different story, right? But at least you have to provide it. Okay, that's the deal. You provide it and you get proof that you email these, that you deliver with the post office, that you get a certified mail, whatever proof that you need to have. And these notices have to be delivered within the time as specified in paragraph 14. When we get to paragraph 14, then that's when you put the date. Seller has so many days to give this form. Buyer has so many days to read them and deliver back. If you don't follow those things, your contract is open and people can cancel. Either the seller or the buyer can cancel. So make sure that you wrap it up. You close this window, you close the next window, so your buyers and your sellers don't escape your transaction. Okay? They're over 18. They know what they're doing. They make them sign. It's not your fault that they make a mistake, right? In the event that the seller or the seller broker firm prior to the close of escrow becomes aware of any new material affecting the property, you have to do another disclosure. So all of a sudden, today I'm selling this house and nothing happened. But tonight, the city council decided they're going to open up a freeway, or they're going to open up a bar or a marijuana dispensary across the street. And now I found out. Then I have to give that disclosure to the new buyer, okay? Natural environmental hazard disclosure, I have to give them an NHD. Whether the property is on an earthquake zone, I have to disclose that. And to do it is cheaper. Instead of me disclosing in a whole bunch of disclosure, you pay $100, $120, $75 to an NHD company, and they will do it for us. Withholding taxes. If you are a foreign person, we are going to withhold money, but we don't do it. Escrow will send the money to the IRS, and escrow will send the money to the Franchise Tax Board. It is complicated. It is tax money. You don't get involved in 3 1/3%, 10%, 15%. Let the escrow handle that part, and let the accountant handle that part. Sometimes somebody can be from Arizona and they own a property in California. If they sell the property in California, they are foreign people. They're not residents of California. They're subject to California taxes. Be wary about that. Gas and hazardous transmission pipelines, right? So there are underground gas lines. You better tell them that there is, if they want to know about it, there is a website, www.npms.phmsa.dot.gov. All right? Let them be themselves looking at it. You don't go there, okay? Condominium, if this is a condominium, the seller has 7 days to let the buyer know that there is a condominium. Sometimes you might have a beautiful gated community, look like a city. There is, golf courses and things. That is a condominium, even if the houses are single family looking on their own lot. Make sure that you describe that. Planned unit development are condominiums in the state of California. Okay. Remember that the buyer will sign each page, and then once the seller receives it, the seller will sign each page and give you a copy back of the acceptance, right? Condition of the property. This is something so misinterpreted. Most people think that they're buying a house. Look at it. Unless otherwise agreed in writing, the property is being sold in its as-is present condition. It says it right here, right? As of the day of acceptance. The buyer is buying as is. I know, and I laugh when the counter offer says, property sold as is. Duh. When I make the offer, the property was as is. That doesn't mean that if it's broken, something broken, you don't have to tell. If something's broken, you do have to disclose. Okay. So the buyer has the right to inspect, right? The buyer is strongly advised to do inspections of the property, right? And if the buyer doesn't like the alligator that is sleeping in the basement, right? Then the buyer can say, I don't like to buy this house based on my inspection report. Okay. You cannot force the seller to fix something for you. Kill the alligator before I move into the house. And the seller says, no, that alligator was here before I moved into this house. And I'm going to leave it there. It's a, it's a national monument. Okay. So the buyer decide, oh, I don't want to live with an alligator underneath my house. Then you don't have to buy the house. Get out and let the next buyer buy. Okay. Just because you're a buyer doesn't mean that you have to force the seller to do something with the house. They lived in the house, they enjoy the house, and they just want to sell it and move to Florida. Right here on paragraph number 12, the buyer has the right to inspect. The buyer has the right to bring their own monk, their own priest, their own Buddha, their own anything to the house, okay, to inspect the house, okay? Personal, the mother-in-law can come into the house to do the inspection. You have 17 days to make that decision. And then when you cancel, give the reason, right? We inspected the house at night. We parked our car and we heard the coyotes crying. We don't like to buy a house where there's coyotes. Okay, then don't buy in California because coyotes everywhere, right? But that's up to you. There is a crazy dude with a motorcycle, a Harley Davidson across the street, and he run every Saturday, every Sunday at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's testing the engine. Well, I don't want to buy because of that. Noise. Okay, then cancel because of that reason. You cancel within your specified time. Okay. The seller shall make the house available for all buyers' investigation. Buyer shall, as is specified in paragraph 14b, complete the buyer's investigations and either remove the contingency or cancel the agreement, right? The buyer either says, I'll buy the house with the alligator, or because of the alligator, I'm not buying this house, okay? Now, you shall bring only licensed people with insurance, right? So you bring a buyer inspector. They don't have a license to be an inspector in California. Make sure that they have E&O insurance, because if they fall off the roof when they're doing the inspection, the seller cannot be sued. So right here, buyer indemnify the seller and protects the seller for entry upon the property. Got it? Title investing, remember, we're not attorneys. We don't tell them. The matter of taking title might have significant legal and tax consequences. Consult an appropriate professional. The appropriate professional will be an attorney that can tell them, don't put little Johnny, to be your cosigner. Well, if I die, Johnny gets the house. Yeah, and Johnny is smoking marijuana and he's playing in the roulette every single night, and he's drunk, and he's, has 20 wives, and we don't know who he sleeps with. Then what? The house belongs to him. If something were to happen to you, he gets in an accident, then they sue you, they take your house away. Oh, no, Johnny was just a cosigner for in case I die. It says here, Johnny's the owner, so let me have your house. So be careful when you're putting people on title. It happens to people that have immigration status, and they have a cousin here that is legal to stay here, and they put the house on that person's name, and then the other party wants to sell it, can sell it. The cousin that is legal is the one that has the title. I've heard so many bad stories, so I don't want to tell you all the bad stories. Time periods. This is the paragraph that talks about the seller has 7 days right here after the acceptance to deliver to the buyer all the reports, all the disclosures, everything we talk about on paragraph 5, paragraph 6, paragraph 7, paragraph 8, paragraph 10, B, C, F, 11, 13. By the time a specified seller has not delivered any such item, the buyer, after giving them a seller notice to perform, may cancel this agreement, right? So the buyer is having, I don't want to buy this house. You can do any of these items. If you have not received them, the buyer has the right to cancel the transaction. Okay? So make sure that you read those paragraph 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, B, C, F, 11, 13, and then you use it in the event that you need to protect your buyer, okay? Buyer has 17 days after the acceptance to conduct all of my read disclosures, sign them, send them back. This is the reason why on day number 20, after you open escrow, 99% of all the documents should be in our SkySlope. There is no excuse for not to have a 75 to 90% complete file in the broker's file. You have to do it. It's right here on the contract. If you're not doing it, the listing agent is not giving it to me. Then call the listing agent. You want me to call the listing agent? I will call the listing agent, and I will call the listing broker and tell them your agent is not doing the stuff for the contract. Be, gutsy. That is your job to protect your buyer. Well, the listing agent don't give to me. You send them an email, CC their broker, CC me. They are not doing their job. Okay, so make sure that they do their job. You have to know the contract, and you say per paragraph 14B, I am canceling, or for paragraph 14A, you have not given me this. I want to cancel. Okay, enough of that. Learn your contract and you will be a better salesperson. This contract, they don't change it every day. Maybe they change it every other year, but who cares? We have this contract for so many years, the RPA. They revise them every time there's something new. If you wanted to know the revision day, go to the bottom of the page and it will tell you this RPA was revised in December of 2018. So they did not change it in 2019. They did not change it in 2020. They have not changed it in 2021. So it's almost 3 years the same. So study it, and they might change it pretty soon, but who knows? What they do is they give addendums. And then after 3 or 4 years, they get rid of some of the addendums and they incorporate them to the purchase agreement. That's how it goes, okay? So here are the removal of contingencies. If you click the box, then you're removing contingencies. If you have a first-time buyer, do not remove contingencies, right? Until you're very certain that the buyer understands that their deposit can be lost, okay? Now here, seller right to cancel. The seller has the right to cancel and the buyer's contingencies, right? So if the buyer has not fulfilled what they said they were gonna do, the seller can cancel, right? Seller has the right to cancel. And the buyer has obligations. They have to sign, deliver notice, apply for a loan, put their down payment, all of that. They return the statutory lead disclosure. They have to do it within the time specified. If you, as a buyer's agent, don't do it on time and don't return them on time, then the seller can always cancel on you. So that's the reason why I get so, passionate about buyer's agent needs to do what they have to do. Get all the disclosures from the listing agent, get the buyer to sign them, deliver back to the listing agent, keep a copy for our files, and you are going to get paid. If not, then your escrow may fall out. This is when you give notices to the buyer or to the seller to perform within 2 days. Sometimes I've seen counter offers where they back to 1 day, right? They give you a counter offer. If you want to have 5 days, you can put 5 days. That would be a good idea. Check to see if the listing agent is sleeping at the wheel. And you say, notice to buyer, seller to perform. It says buyer or the seller, give the other at least 5 days after the delivery to decide to cancel the agreement. I would do that if I am representing the buyer. Okay, that's up to you. You are independent contractor. You are the chef of your own kitchen. I cook my tacos my way. You can cook your tacos your way. I boil my spaghetti and put whatever sauce I want. You can do whatever you want as long as you stay within the law. I am just telling you what Caesar would do when writing up an offer. Close of escrow. Before buyer or seller may cancel this agreement for failure of the other party to close the escrow pursuant to this agreement, the buyer or the seller must give a notice to the other party demanding, hey, Mr. Buyer, you're behind. Please close escrow within the next 3 days. You have to give the notice before you cancel. So when somebody threatens you, we're going to cancel the escrow. Great. You first have to give me the notice that you are going to cancel the escrow. And then I have to respond. Remember, real estate is like tennis or ping pong, ping pong. The ball goes to your side of the table, the ball comes back to my side of the table. As long as the ball is moving, we are under contract, okay? Even if some of the times have passed, we're writing back and forth. Boyfriend writes to the girlfriend, girlfriend answers to the boyfriend, boyfriend answers to the girlfriend. That's how the game is played. As long as you keep communication in writing, then we are talking, okay? What happened with the cancellation? What happened to the deposit? Oh, what happened to the money in escrow? Yeah, the money in escrow follows escrow rules, not just these contract rules. Escrow will not give the money to somebody until they receive mutual escrow instructions. So if the seller wants the buyer's money, the buyer has to agree to give it to them. If the lender wants the buyer's money, it's already in the escrow instructions. It is already signed, right? So make sure that there is mutual agreement. If you have questions about deposits, you could always attend the Lunch and Learn from Escrow 101, and you will learn that. Or you could also pick up a phone, call your favorite escrow officer. If you don't have one, you're welcome to call Alba Moy, Betty, or Marie, or whoever is the ones that come into our sales meetings, okay? You can go to your favorite escrow company. And it says, look at this one. A party may be subject to civil penalty of up to $1,000 if you refuse to sign a cancellation instruction if no good faith dispute exists. And if you're doing it in bad blood, you may be subject to this $1,000. There's a civil code 10573 if you want to go read the law. Okay. On the next page, right? And I gotta hurry up. It's about 11:30. We talk about repairs. This is the final verification of condition. This is what we call a walkthrough. It is not a contingency to this transaction, but its buyer has the right. He says buyer shall have the right to make a final walkthrough of the property within 5 days. You can put here within 3 days. You can put 10 days prior to the close of escrow, not a contingency of the sale. So if the buyer doesn't do it, no problem. Coldwell Banker George Realty would like to get that form that the buyer went to the property and they're okay to move into the house. And he says that the property is maintained pursuant to the paragraph number 11, that the repairs have been completed and the seller has complied with the seller's obligation under the agreement, right? So if there are some repairs, the repairs must be done 5 days before the close of escrow. The form, the VP form, this one, VP, it says buyer has looked at the house and it is in the same condition as when I write the offer. That's all there is. If there is anything wrong, this is not the time to renegotiate the sale. If something is broken, you can say, yes, I've seen it. Seller, please fix the glass that was broken now, that was not broken before. Okay, but if it was broken before and you didn't say nothing and it's still broken today, that's the way you bought it. There will be a proration of taxes, right? At the old tax rate. The buyer will be getting a new form that says that the buyer's taxes are gonna go up, right? They use 30 days. So if you're doing February, you get cheated by 2 days because it's at 30 days. If you're closing in July, you win 1 day because July has 31. So it's a 30-day month, how they prorate it. Broker's compensation, he talks about who gets paid, and it says the seller or the buyer or both. The buyer can pay commission. Nothing wrong with the buyer paying you a commission. Make sure that there is an agreement, and that needs to be turned into escrow. Agree to pay compensation to the broker as specified in a separate written agreement. Broker, and that the seller and that seller's a buyer. Compensation is payable upon the close of escrow, or if escrow doesn't close, as otherwise specified on that agreement between the broker and the seller, or that agreement between the broker and the buyer. Usually, if escrow doesn't close, we don't get paid, okay? But if escrow closes, there is a listing agreement that says when we get paid, okay? And then he talks about the scope of duty. This is your job, okay? Read it. This is what you're supposed to do, Mr. Real Estate Agent, okay? The listing agent does not decide the price of the buyer paying, right? Or tell the seller, oh, this is a good price, you should take it. No, we do not do that. That does not guarantee the condition of the property. We cannot guarantee the condition of the property. We cannot guarantee the performance or any of the inspectors, any of the escrow company, any of the lenders, any of the repairs. We are not the person in charge of that. Does not have an obligation to conduct inspections. We are not inspectors. We don't check the site of the property. We don't go around the block and see if there's dynamite in the neighborhood, if there are gang members. That's not our job. It says the broker, meaning you, shall not be responsible for identifying defects on the property. Oh, the roof, it's a little swagging. That's not your job, okay? The broker shall not be responsible for inspecting public records. You do not go to the city and check the public records, okay? You are not responsible. If they want to check, they can go, okay? We only do any investigation on this property. We just check the multiple listing service. We check advertisement, flyers, promotional. Shall not be responsible for determining the fair market value of the property. We cannot determine the fair market value of the property. We can only show comparables and say the house across the street sold for $350. The one over there sold for $370. They're asking $390. How much do you want to buy it? Well, you tell me, you're the agent. Well, pay full price. That's the agent should answer. Oh no, I don't want to pay full price. Well, then pay less than full price. How much do you want to write it? That's how you answer to those people. Okay, unless you're the one buying, unless you're the one signing the check, unless you're the one signing the loan documents, you don't set the price. Okay, in the event that there is an entity, there is a representative capacity agreement that needs to be filled in. There's a form that talks who is in charge of this trust, who is in charge of this entity, this corporation, this partnership, who is in charge, who is the person. Because a company cannot sign unless there is a person designated to do that. All of these documents become the joint escrow instructions, right? So we closed paragraph escrow officer, read paragraph 1 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 10 and 13 and 14 and 17. So the escrow officer will get a copy of this agreement and will follow the instructions on this agreement. And then if there's any changes to those things, must be in writing. Real estate must be in writing, right? It says here, a copy of this agreement, including any counter offers and addendum, will be delivered to an escrow holder within 3 days. Make sure that fully executed, all signatures, buyer's initial. If you're missing an initial, you need to go ahead and redo it. Reinitial and put a date and put a little signature initial that you forgot to initial originally, right? It says brokers are a party to the escrow for the sole purpose of compensation. They're not party to the escrow to make decisions in the escrow. Escrow will pay our commission from the seller's money or from the buyer's money, okay? Upon receipt, escrow holder shall provide the seller and the seller's broker a verification of the buyer's deposit. That means a receipt. So when we say, give me a receipt of the money, well, escrow don't want to give it to me. Hello, right here. Escrow shall provide, right? The receipt that I got the money, right? Escrow holder shall immediately notify all brokers if the buyer's initial or any additional deposit is not made pursuant to this agreement. The escrow should call and say, hey, the buyer didn't put the money. What do you want me to do? Cancel or void this. Now they're putting it in big letters. Look at it, black, big letters. It says, any clause added to the parties specifying a remedy, meaning I want to have a release, a forfeiture of the deposit, or making a deposit non-refundable, right? For failure of the buyer to complete the purchase in violation of this agreement shall be deemed invalid unless the clause independently satisfies the statutory liquidated damage requirements set forth in civil code. So this form is set on civil code that says, if the buyer fails to complete this purchase because of a buyer's default, seller shall retain as liquidated damages the deposit actually paid if the property is a dwelling with no more than 4 units, meaning 1 to 4, one of which the buyer is gonna occupy. Only owner-occupied properties, the liquidated damage clause exists, okay? The amount retained shall be no more than 3% of the purchase price. 3% right here is where it comes up with that 3% that people make it, must be 3% for the deposit, doesn't have to. Any excess, in this case, we put 50,000. Any excess will be returned to the buyer, except as provided in paragraph 14H that says release of the funds will require mutual signed release instruction from both the buyer and the seller, a judicial decision or an arbitration. At the time of any increased deposit, buyer and seller shall sign a new form, RID. This is the reason why we don't sign an RID, because if you don't do it, then that money doesn't go as a liquidated damage clause. Buyer must sign, seller must sign. If the seller does not want this, the seller doesn't have to, and there is no liquidated damage clause. That means that the seller can sue the buyer for more money than the 3% or the deposit, okay? So that's that thing. In the event that we have a fight, this is how we're gonna solve our fights, right? We're gonna go and kill each other with a machine gun. No, 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 that's not what is the resolution. It says that originally we are gonna go to mediation. We are gonna be friendly, but whoever wants to mediate have to pay for the mediator and invoke the mediation. Or if you are going to fight through an arbitration, then you do have to pay for the arbitrator and have everything submitted to an arbitrator, and you can get information of arbitration from CAR. There are arbitrators there. It is also part of the Civil Code of Procedures, 1283. So don't go alone. Make sure that if you are going to arbitrate, you consult an attorney that can help you. You know, you need to know real estate law experience in order to do this, right? There are some exclusions from this. If this is a probate, if it's a judgment sale, it doesn't apply. These things doesn't apply. Brokers shall not be obligated nor compelled to mediate or arbitrate unless they agree to do so in writing. Any broker participating in a mediation or arbitration shall not be deemed a party to this agreement. Okay, so if we're participating in it, we're participating as witnesses, but we're not arbitrating for ourselves. Okay. Selection of service providers, who picks the escrow and the title company. Brokers do not guarantee the performance of any of those. We can suggest companies that we do business with, just like if saying, oh, you can go to an AMC theater if you wanted to see a movie, right? Or you can go to Regal. I don't know. Maybe that's a you can advise somebody like that, but you do not know if the movie theater is going to be clean or if it's going to be open. This property has been in the multiple listing service, and we're going to report it pending sold or whatever. There will be comparables in the MLS. Attorney's fees, in the event that this goes to attorneys and the attorney's fee, they sue, the winning party gets reasonable attorney's fees. I don't know. To me, all attorney's fees are unreasonable. They charge too much. That's okay. But they think that our 6% commission is unreasonable too. So we're in the same boat. Assignments, buyers shall not assign. Okay, there are a lot of people that go out there, make an offer, and then they say, oh, I got that house for $100,000. I'm gonna sell it to you, give me $3,000 and you can continue the contract. That's not the way that this to do it. Such a consent shall not be unreasonably withheld. So if I buy the property and I cannot qualify, by my sister will, and I want to get a co-signer, then the seller should agree to make this to add an extra person to the agreement, okay? And you can assign co-signers to it. Equal housing opportunity, as we spelled before on the non-disclosure, equal housing opportunity means that we don't discriminate about anything, okay? Terms and conditions of the offer. This is an offer to purchase the property. Whatever is in writing here, it's what goes. Oh, but he said that he was going to wash the carpet. He said it, but he did not write it. Therefore, doesn't go, okay? Time is of the essence. The entire contract, any changes must be in writing, right? So this one, neither this agreement nor any provisions, it may be extended, amended, modify, alter, or change, except in writing, signed by the buyer and the seller. Okay? So if it is not in writing and if it is not signed by the buyer and the seller, it doesn't apply. Then on 30, they give you definitions. What does acceptance mean? What is an agreement? What is a CAR form? What is close of escrow? What's a copy? In case you didn't know what's a copy. In case nobody told you what is a day, now it's daytime. For those of you that are in California, it may be nighttime after 5 p.m. when the sun goes down, right? Days after means days after. Today is day 0. Tomorrow is 1 day after acceptance. 2 days after acceptance will be Sunday. 3 days after acceptance should be Monday, right? What does delivery mean? Delivery. Well, English is not my first language. I get confused with all this language. So what is a deliver? Delivered. It's already past tense, or delivery, right? Get it in a dictionary. Electronic copy are available. We use electronic copies. We also use electronic signatures. Law means the law in the state of California. Repairs means repairs, right? Including pest control. Pest control is a repair. Sign means that somebody put ink with a pen to the document. And the buyer signs this offer. Wonderful. We got to the end. Page 9 of 10, the buyer signs here. In the event that this is a entity, a corporation, a partnership, an LLC, you check the box and there will be a new form that needs to be signed by that human being that signs on behalf of that entity, right? Then here is the seller. The seller must sign here. If the seller is an entity, they also can sign with an entity, right? If there is more than 2 sellers, 3 sellers, they could also get an additional signature addendum. If the seller rejects this offer and likes 90% of it, they can do a seller's counter offer, but they must check the box, or a seller's multiple counter offer, and they have to put the date that they're writing that counter offer, so there is continuity. This is a counter offer to the offer that was written by so-and-so and so-and-so February 5, 2021, right? Make sure that those dates are matching, right? So that way we know, a third party can read it and say, oh yeah, this counter offer belongs to this offer, right? It gives you instruction. It says, do not initial if you're making a counter offer. Do not initial if you're making a counter offer, right? Then this box is not part of the contract. It's just a box, a page 10, where it explains who are the agents in the transaction, right? And then there is a DLT, a declaration of taxes, in the event that you are dealing with a small real estate company or a, Joe Smith. You could request this, but there is no necessary. If we belong to the MLS, we're gonna get paid whatever is specified in the MLS. Your offer needs to be signed. My offer will be signed by my signature, my ink, or my electronic, my company license, my own license, and I send it out. When I get this offer back, I want to make sure that ABC Realty has a license and Susie Q will sign it, because when Susie sign it, she is acknowledging that I will get paid right here. I will get paid my compensation. If I don't see a signature here, my commission will have to be fought in arbitration at the Board of Realtors in the event that Susie said, I don't want to pay Caesar. So then I'll have to take Susie to an arbitration at the Board of Realtors. Then the escrow company will have to sign here that says, yes, I have received a copy of this agreement and I receive a deposit of X amount of dollars, and the escrow officer will sign here. And the escrow will put their license number, the escrow number, okay? And the information about the license number for the escrow company. Whether they are broker-owned escrow, it will be the broker that owns it, licensed by the Department of Real Estate. If it is the title company, it will be the insurance company. If it is an independent escrow company, it will be the Department of Corporations, that now is called the Division of Business Affairs, or whatever the governor decide to change the name to those offices. Okay, the Secretary of whatever the government wants it to be now, because they keep changing names, just like when they change the name of Department of Real Estate to, Bureau of this, Bureau of that. Okay, right here, the Department of Insurance, the Department of Real Estate, or the department now is called the Department of Finance, Protection, and Innovation. They're so forth, they're futuristic. They're innovating everything all the time. They got nothing better to do. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the purchase agreement. Then this one is another document, the buyer's inspection advisory. We're telling the buyer, Mr. Buyer, you're an adult, you're over 18, you're buying a house. Buying a house is not like buying a shirt. You cannot return it once you're the owner. So make sure that you are aware of a square footage and water, environmental and fire and rental property restriction and security and safety. You check the neighborhood. You, Mr. Buyer, are responsible for this one. And then, because we live in the state of California, they put more laws and more stuff for us to do. There is a California Consumer Privacy Act advisory. It is part of the Civil Code 1798, law that people don't even read, that people don't even understand, but there ought to be a law about this. There ought to be a law, and they keep adding laws and laws and laws, and they don't have enough people to police it anyway. But anyway, as of January 1 of 2020, the California Consumer Privacy Act tells that all this, the buyer don't publish my information, okay? So Betty will sign here, and Betty gets a copy of the Consumer Privacy Act advisory. We are advising them that they can be as private as they wish to be, and we will never share their information with anybody. All righty, wake up. It's time for questions and answer. Let me stop the sharing. Yes, anybody has a question? I must have put some people to sleep. Just unmute yourself and ask the question, because at one time there was almost 18 people in the class and some of them left. Yes. Yes, Mary, go for it.
Yeah, Cesar, can you review the timeline? If the seller is going to make a counter offer, the buyer has, is it 3 days to respond to that counter?
Well, you would have to be looking at the counter offer. So if I were to go back and sharing my screen, right? I share my screen, I go to here, let me just go and get a form. So the counter offer, if the seller gives a counter offer, so let me go to seller's counter offer, right? I'll pick for a seller's counter offer and I get one. I get it into my file. Of course, this is not for the seller, but the seller counter offer is like this. I receive it today. I'm the listing agent. Mary wrote the offer, and I'm going to be answering tomorrow, right? I'm going to do it tomorrow. And this is a counter offer from the seller regarding the purchase agreement. That was on 123 Main Street. Betty was the buyer. Sally was the seller. Right? Sally is the seller on this transaction. And let's say that I want the price to be $1 million. And and whatever I'm putting here, right? I can put all the other stuff that I put for Mary, right? And then it says the following attached addenda in case I wanted to give something attached. I'm not attaching no addendum, right? And then it says here, the expiration. This seller counteroffer shall be deemed revoked, and the deposits, if any, shall be returned, right? Unless by 5 p.m. on the third day after the day it is signed in paragraph 4. So if Sally signs it, right, on Sunday, then it is 3 days after Sunday, not 3 days after I wrote it, okay? So you have 3 days after I sign it to return to me, right?
Thank you.
So, but that doesn't mean that I have to wait for you, Mary. I can give a counter offer to somebody, to you, right? I give it to you, and you're gonna go talk to Sally, and you say, oh, I have 3 days. I'm gonna see Sally on Sunday, or I'm gonna see Sally on Monday. But then all of a sudden, somebody writes me an offer, and I receive a second offer, and I love it. They wrote it for $1 million, and they're gonna put 50% down, and we like it. Accept it, and we accept it. Oh, and
They
this,
beat you out.
huh?
They beat you out.
They beat out of you, and then but what they have to do in order for them not to sell the property to two people, right? To your Sally, I would have to email you a cancellation of this counter offer, a withdrawal. Okay, because I need to notify you. This is a document that if you Sally signs it, it's binding upon me. So I need to withdraw this counter offer. I will send you an email to say, hey, Mary, I'm sorry, but we received a beautiful offer today. We accepted it. And please tell Sally that we're sorry. She wrote a low offer and we don't want to, the counter offer is hereby void and blah, blah, blah. So there is a form that says withdrawal of an offer, and I have to send it to you. Or I can do it by email, but I will put the form and send it back to you. If it is a multiple counter offer, then I'm not so worried, because always the seller reserves the right to accept or reject any and all counter offers that come back.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody?
A quick question about a gift.
Yes.
Let's say on page 1 of the RPA,
Yes.
where you're putting the finance terms, and you have the deposit, you have the loan, and then you have the, of course, the total or the balance on the purchase price. If the buyer is going to get a gift to pay for the closing costs, let's say,
that would be a place to do it. Let's say if they're going to get a gift from their parents, or if they're going to get a gift from the Los Angeles County housing, they're going to be getting a grant, a gift from the Realtors Finance housing charity, whatever that we have. Yes, you can do it there. Another one is, let's say that you are going to be helping your daughter purchase a house, and you wanted to be doing, you can also be putting there that part of the down payment is coming from a gift from parents. That way you can explain the reason why your daughter doesn't have all the money in the bank to verify the money, but they can have a checking account from you that has the money, a savings account from the parents that are going to be giving that gift.
so if a buyer has the down payment and the loan, okay, except for the closing costs, do you still have to show proof of funds for the closing costs?
Sometimes to prove it, yes.
Okay.
Because remember that you have to have reserves. I think that the lenders always are requiring 1 or 2 months of mortgage payment to be left in the checking account or savings account,
Okay.
or that you're going to earn that money within the next month, that you're going to
Okay.
get paid.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, over here, somebody asked me a question. It says, if a loan process time will be longer than 21 days, should I change the loan contingency from 21 days to something else? The answer is yes. But then he says, will that lower the chance to get the house? Well, yeah, but at least you're dealing with the truth. And to me, it's better to deal with the truth and say, listen, bank ABC is going to give me a loan approval in 25 days, but it's 100% that if I were to lie to you and tell you 17 days, and then I'm going to be asking for extension. What would you like me to do, Mr. Listing Agent? So I would try to speak with listing agents. Yes, I know that listing agents in today's day, they get to be arrogant, but the good ones will always answer. I guarantee you, good listing agents, they have the time to do business with everybody. That's the reason why they're top listing agents, okay? You know, the people that give you the more hassle is the one that never got a listing, and they get one listing on their life, and they do not know how to handle it. But a good listing agent, they will respond by email, by text, saying, yes, your offer is good. No, your offer is not. I have 20 offers. You better hurry up. You know, in some cases, some top listing agents would even help you. There has been many times that they know, and not because I've been in the business for a long time, but I know some agents at Coldwell Banker, they go and make an offer to a listing agent, and they happen to know our firm, our company, and our good reputation in the San Gabriel Valley. And they say, you know what, I accepted the offer because I know Cesar used to be my manager, or they know that they're training, and they will watch out for the transaction. So I've seen that happen. So make sure that you do communicate with the listing company. And I know that sometimes, you know, Mari Rodriguez gives you a whole list of things to do. Fulfill that. And then some of the assistants will know. If you give them a good, clean offer, professionally written with all the initials, listing agents like that. The reason why a listing agent becomes more cocky is when you write a bad offer, when you're missing the day, when you're missing this. They don't want to put their commission, their food for their kids in the hands of an inexperienced agent. Any other question? Okay, it's 12 noon. We took 2 hours to do the whole purchase agreement. If there's anything that you want me to address in these classes, and of course, this is for new agents, for experienced agents, if you want to just sharpen your skills on something, send it in, and I'll be delighted to touch on it. Don't forget, on Monday, there's a lunch and learn. Of course, you bring your own lunch to your own Zoom computer, and it is by Natural Hazard Disclosure Home Warranties by First American. All righty?
Thank you, Cesar.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.